Hey guys! So, today we're going to talk about a subscriber question. And the question in question was, Frederick, how is it that you and your team decided to go with vanilla JavaScript as opposed, or no, the other way around. How is it that you choose to use React instead of vanilla JavaScript to work on your projects? So let's get into it. Now, this is a pretty good question, and it is probably by far it's actually the root question, I would say, to a lot of these problems. Let's call them problems. I don't know if they're problems, but to me there is a bit of a, let's call it a misunderstanding or a misconception about these so-called SPA frameworks and versus vanilla JavaScript, and when should you choose one over the other. And especially for a lot of beginners, it's super tricky to figure out where these discussions, where all of this is coming from. What I mean is basically, how will you know when to pick one over the other, and what is the reasoning behind picking one over the other? So let's talk about that. You see, the thing is, when it comes to vanilla JavaScript, it's a perfectly fine, it's a perfectly good language to work in. If you want to do a lot of static content, some simple animations, or rather, let's be blunt and say, if you want to do the thing JavaScript was originally designed to do, it's perfectly fine. It's better than it has ever been. It's absolutely amazing in comparison to what it used to be. However, due to, let's call them certain developments, or let's not beat around the bush anymore, because of the way the industry has moved and because of these political movements promoted by specifically Google and the browser vendors, they have pushed us into not them alone, of course, but the entire web platform has been pushed into this idea that the web should and behave as a native application. In other words, we have gone from the web being what it was originally to now it trying to basically be, the browser has virtually trying to become the operating system. You're trying to have a next generation application development for the web platform. And if I get opinionated about this, I think that has largely to do with the threat that mobile development poses to the web. But that is another discussion. But because of this is where we are. So when we want to build these more sophisticated applications, things get a lot more tricky, especially when we want to do it with JavaScript. If you take a framework like React, which is the thing that I use at my work, for example. Now, React in of itself is just a framework, but the framework is abstracting away an underlying mechanism that is basically required in order for you to be able to write the sort of complicated features and or rather provide the sort of complicated application that the customers, I don't even know if they are asking for it, but the thing that my company wants to produce. And that underlying mechanism that is so hard to do in vanilla JavaScript, because it was never designed to do this, is to continuously re-render the DOM. In order for you to be able to, in an effective manner, have a complicated tree structure of nodes or elements, and to re-render that with, on every update you should be able to make some update to the DOM. In order for you to do that, you basically need a framework. It's all but impossible for you to do that without using some type of structured way of working. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, but the odds of you getting that size of code base or that application size right is all but, I guess, abysmal. There is very little chance, unless you have some truly masters of JavaScript, that you will get a large system built in JavaScript, a really large complicated application in all vanilla JavaScript, to not have like code rot and decay and like just become this mess of, well, basically a big mess. I've seen this happen quite a few times. It's not pretty. I've seen people try to write sophisticated applications in jQuery, and it's always ended in failure. Every single time. I've never seen anybody who have been able to write a sophisticated application in all vanilla JavaScript. And that, my friend, is why my team specifically has opted in to use a framework such as React in this case, instead of doing it in all the vanilla JavaScript. Because, to put it bluntly, the amount of skill that would be required from every single person on the team, or a key set of people who would have to monitor everything and have like basically super seniority, the risk is immense, guys. It is feasible that you could write a sophisticated application that would have been a very good fit for, say, React in vanilla JavaScript, but it is risky. It's risky as all hell. If you go down that route and you have a really large code base, you really need to know what you're doing. Like really. And to put it bluntly, when we started, I wasn't even in the company. I wasn't even working when that decision was made. And I was talking to the subscriber of mine, and I was saying that even if I had been at the company at that time, when the decision was made, should we use this framework or should we use vanilla JavaScript, I would have still told my boss, if he asked me for my opinion, that we should go with React or like an SPA framework, because of this reason. The risk is simply too great. If you don't have a structured way of working or some way of working within a framework, when you have a large code base in JavaScript, you are basically doomed to fail. Unless, of course, as I've said, you have a really static website, like there's no like dynamic re-rendering or anything like that going on. It's fairly simple stuff. Or you have a team of master developers. I mean, I would love personally to work on a project that uses like the standards, or at most say Polymer, something like that. But like, I mean, that's for my personal enjoyment, and that's just not good enough for a big company who wants to have a future-proof solution. So what I want you to take away from this is that when you have that discussion between, all right, should I go with a framework, or when it comes to application development, should I go with a framework or should I go with vanilla JavaScript, you should always ask the fundamental question. Number one, is this a static website? If it's not a static website, it's a real web application, something like Gmail or something like that, where there's a lot of dynamic re-rendering on the page, it is just not worth the risk to do that in vanilla JavaScript, because it was never designed to do that. It's very ill-equipped to handling that sort of complexity, and you will most likely get it wrong. I'm pretty sure you will. Second thing is, do you have like a real need for it? Because the framework gives you a lot of things for free. Like you can have developers from different skill levels come in and just be productive if you use Angular or React or something like that. There's a lot of documentation. These frameworks are meant to make things easier on you. And unless you have a really good reason as to use vanilla JavaScript or like native JavaScript, there's no point. There's really no point, and you're just taking a really big risk for your entire project. So when you want to use it, however, is, as I said, static websites, or you need, say, a lot of performance, like you need to go heavy on performance. Those are the times, or I would say, yeah, on average, that's the way that at least me and my coworkers think when we make this sort of decision. Have a great day.